Hello there. My name is Katrina, and I'm a Creative Memories Advisor on the Heart and Hand Memory Makers team. I am here to talk to you today about the spines on our albums. Did you know that Creative Memories has a way to customize the spines so that you have a unique title or information on the outside of your album? To me, it just really puts the finishing touch on the album, and it's just something I always look forward to doing. You can see on my shelves behind me that all of my albums have titles on them, and I just love that when you want to know which album you're going to, it's easy to grab because it's on the spine. Let me show you some pictures of my albums. So this is two sets of albums. So if you look on the left there, those are the ones from old Creative Memories. And so when we had the persona imprinting back in the day, we had designs we could put on it. And so that's what I started with. And then when New Creative Memories began offering the imprinting, they didn't have the designs, but I wanted to replicate the look of it. So my two albums here on the right with the 17 and 18, I made the lines across and the big item, it's not a picture, but it's a big item. And then down at the bottom, it has the year. So the 17 and 18 for me is the wedding anniversary that my husband and I will celebrate in that year. And then I've got the actual year down at the bottom of the album. So just something that made sense to me when I did it. And let's see. These are my happy albums, and they're actually shorter than 12 inches tall. And at the very end of this video, I'll show you how I took a 12-inch spine and folded it down so that it fit into the happy album. But I love having my happy albums clearly labeled, and the font that I use there, it's Mouse Memoirs, and it just makes me feel happy. Here's some that I did for my husband. He's the band director at West Fork. And so the black album, again, that was one I imprinted a long time ago with the graphics, but that has details of his marching seasons and his band seasons. And so it's got photos from the design drill that they did during the marching season and the uniforms the color guard wore and just the silly things the kids did and their trophies and stuff like that. So it's kind of just a snapshot of that year in his life as a band director. And then the other ones, this is the classroom pictures, like the big group shots that they took. So this is from the history of the band program. He found them in the attic or something. And so he brought them to me, this giant box, and said, please put these in an album. So I put them in an album, and I did those a little different because I did volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, because when I imprinted them, I didn't know exactly how many years or what years I would end up with in each album. So I just did them all the same and added volume numbers so that I would have them going forward. And I have a fourth one tucked away for future years. And then here are some special albums, like this blue one in the middle. Omar's mother, my husband's mom, my mother-in-law, made this for him, and it's all the pictures and information that she had collected and newspaper clippings and stuff throughout his childhood and his college days in the Razorback band. And so you can see at the bottom of that, I put made by Wanda Thorpe, his mom, on there, so we'd know that she made that album for him. And then this is another album that we put together of his childhood. And then this one on the right, I used a different font for it because it's completely, different. It's not a family album. It's not his album. This is a trip that my cousins and I took to Wales in 2018. And the bottom there are the 4 people that were on the trip. And so this is just one album of that trip. And so I wanted the font to look different, and it's a little girly because it was a girls' trip. And so that's how I did it. And then here's just some more of my annual family albums. So that is something I wanted to show you, just kind of mine. And so like some things that you want to think about when you're planning to make a spine is how do you want it to look? Do you want it to look consistent with each other, a group of albums? Is it for a special event? Is it a family album? Is it for one person? Is it for multiple people? What years is it? Does it cover? Did you go someplace special? So just kind of think about what's inside this album that you want to make clear on the outside. And so do you want it to have a fun look or serious look? How do you want it to look? So the next thing to think about is what color spine. Creative Memories has been making albums for a really, really long time. This right here are just the albums that we've been making since 2014. Now, we do not carry all of those colors in the spine colors. So you need to think about what color would go with it. If you can't get an exact match, then as you know, if you have Vivid Blue Sparkle album and there is not a Vivid Blue Sparkle spine, then I recommend doing something completely opposite on the color wheel, something that is very contrasting but complementary. And I'm just going to show you, here's one album, was orange, and this was from the Ani and Zoe days, and we do not have an orange album or spine that matched this one. So I chose this turquoisey color because it's fun. And then if you look actually inside the album, it has a lot of turquoise in it. So I thought, that looks good. So that's how I chose it. And then I'm going to show you one where I chose poorly. I didn't know what color this album was, so I chose jade. And I'm just really not thrilled with, it looks like I tried to match and didn't. So I'd no longer try to do that. I would do something completely opposite on that if I were doing it over again. And let me show you also, like, here's my happy album, navy, or it was a blue color. And then here's the teal, or actually I think it's a mint spine, but I just like it to be fun because it's my happy album. So think about what will go with your album, but maybe not match it if that's not available. Now, a tool that I have are swatches of a bunch of our album colors, probably not everyone that was on the list, but I have these swatches. If you happen to be at a retreat with me or one of my teammates, I will be more than happy to let you look at these. It really helps to have these swatches and say what color works with this album. And I've got them all flagged if we have a spine currently available. So one of our advisors up in the Pacific Northwest has these and sends them to us whenever we have new albums come out. And if it's something that's going to stick around for a while, she makes up swatch cards. And so it's really handy to be able to match these. And I even have some of the old colors if we want to, if you don't have your album with you, but you know that it was, that particular yellow color, soft yellow, then we could see what would go with it. So anyway, that's just something I have if you need to borrow it. And so that's kind of some things I touched on as far as two key things to think about before we start off. Now we're going to move over to the Creative Memories website, and I'm going to talk you through how to get started creating your spines. Alrighty, here we are on the Creative Memories website. And the very first thing you should always do when you come out to the website is to log in. And you'll know that you're logged in if your name is up here in the top left corner. All right, so once we're logged in, we're going to go down to the middle to create digital photo albums, and then down to custom foiled spines. And you can do this on an iPad and it works okay. It's really best on an actual computer. Don't try to do it on your phone. It's just too small of a screen to work. So try to do it on a computer if you can. All right, so here we are on the foiled spines page, and you'll just scroll up a little bit and then click on the view details of this product item. And now we're on, okay, the foiled spines, where we have to start choosing some of those options that I mentioned earlier, like which color. But before I show you that, I want to show you right here, there's hyperlinked here, and there's also this start here if this is your first time creating a spine. If you go to these pages, what you're going to get is how to. It's going to be a video pretty similar to what I talk you through here. And then if you keep scrolling, you're going to get, here's different albums we've had over the history that I showed you a little bit ago. Here's a color wheel to help you choose. Maybe you want to choose something that's across from what your album is. Here's a sample of the fonts that we can use on our album. And so there, yeah. And if you forget, here's how to put your spine in and out. Oh, one tip. When you purchase a new album, before you have it imprinted, say you're not going to use it for a little while, I would suggest you go ahead and pull the spine out of your album in one of your Creative Memories acid-free markers. I would write the color of the album on the inside of that spine and then slide it back in there. And that way, if it's 2 years before you get around to making the spine or using that album, how many of us have many albums in our stash that we haven't yet used? So if it's a little while before you use the album and you get to 2 years later and you're like, what color was that? Well, hey, you wrote it on the inside of your spine. So anyway, that's just a little tip that I have for you today. And the big important thing is don't push the spine from the middle, always push it in from the edges. So here's a little help page for you to come back to later. But right now we're gonna work through a spine ourselves. So first, choose a book cloth. And you'll see that some of these are WSL, while supplies last. So that means there's a limited inventory of that book cloth. And so they will only be able to make spines until that's depleted. Some of these are always going to have, you know, like cobalt and ebony. Those are just staple colors. And so we're always going to have those. And so you might think, if I want to do a spine that I know that forever I will be able to print one of these, I'm going to choose ebony, because I know that that's always going to be available. And so it doesn't really matter what color my album is, I'm always going to have an ebony spine and have that consistent look on my shelf. So that's an idea. Let's just play with that one. All right, you also have to choose a foil color in this step, and you can't change it once you get into the designer. So we have to make a good choice here. Now, I personally choose silver for all of mine, and I just like that consistency on my shelf. And that's a pretty good color unless it's a light colored album. Like I've got an ivory album, and so the silver really doesn't pop out, but I didn't want that one album to have, say, black font. And to me, that would be more, I don't know, it would pop out more and be more obvious, I guess, than if I had silver. So I do silver for everything. I take that back. On those black albums that have the tiger paw prints, they have gold. But anyway, so maybe you'd prefer gold. Think about what is the album color on the outside, maybe what's inside the album. What do you like? You can choose whichever. And then, oh, there's also a black font, but it will not let us choose it on a black album. Let's pick a different color so you can see that. Here you go. So you can see there's a black foil also, which would really pop out on most colors of book cloth. But you can play around with all of these. It'll give you, didn't mean to do that. It'll give you a look, and you can decide if that's going to work for you or not. See how the silver doesn't really show up very well on that one. So if you're doing cashmere blue, you might want to choose black. When you've made your choices there, we're going to enter a name for our product or for our spine. And I recommend, like I always do, like the year and the subject so that I can come back to it later. And often I'm going to use the same thing I'm actually going to write on the spine. All right, so now we are at the add text phase. So you can stick with just the basic, here's what they have, or you can come over to layout, and this will change it to a few other pre-selected, pre-designed layouts for you. Or you can just delete all of them and start from scratch. It's pretty flexible that way. We're just going to stick with what's here for now. And this bounding box right here, the gray and white dotted line, that is an assumption of your safe area if you have one pack of pages in your album. So if you're going to have, like, I usually put 2 packs of pages or more in my album, so I could go outside that area and it would still probably be okay. But that's kind of our safe area for 1 pack. And then you're simply going to click into the box and it's going to pop up down here to add text. And you're going to say scrapbook extravaganza. How about that? 2019. All right, and see, I've typed so much in here that it is wrapped, and now I'm getting an error that some text may be cut off when printed. So we'll just play around with it and see what we can do with it. So if I'm still clicked in the box, I can click here on this text and it'll pop open some options. And you'll see you can try, maybe you want to try a different type of font, a different style. You can bold it. If I have a lot of words that I want to fit in there, a lot of times I'll use that Amatic because it's kind of a skinnier font. But then I probably would bold it just so it pops out a little bit more. But this is just, you know, there's a bunch of different options and you can just keep playing around with it. I like that one too, Dream Orphans. The Mouse Memoirs, I'm sure that, you know, that's kind of to be for that fun place. But I use that on my happy album because it's just a happy font. So, and then you can have it bold or not bold. To me, that one's probably one I would not bold because it's a pretty heavy font anyway. You can move them to one end, left justify, center justify, right justify. On a lot of my albums, I like to left justify so that it's all, you know, at the top or lined up at the top. But I also see a lot of people centering them so that they're all centered. So it's personal preference. So we'll go with that. Now, transform, you'll see that when we kind of fiddled with the font, it got this so it's off center. So when we click the transform button down here, we're going to click onto the arrows and that allows us to move. And then when we have it perfectly centered, it's going to make the green lines. All right. And then, yeah, so let's do a quick little preview just to see what it's looking like. All right, that's looking pretty good. And now I'm going to go back to edit. And you'll notice that because I had not put any text in this bottom box, it didn't put that in there. All right, you may be wondering how I made the horizontal lines on mine. Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to add an empty text box, and I'm going to use the shift and the underscore because that makes it more connected than if you use dotted lines. So I'm going to put that in there just so I can see where my box is. And then I'm going to click transform. And I'm going to, oh, sorry, I should probably use the mouse. Rotate that like that. And then I'm going to move it up here so I can work with it some more. And then if you want to make it go to the edges of your spine, just grab the little ends of it and move it in. So now you can see that I've made it too big. And again, it also is dependent upon the font. I did not use Mouse Memoirs. Let's see what Lato Black. Maybe just Open Sans. Just get you a good looking line. And then just make it. Okay. Like that. So that's how I made those lines. So you can take your text and transform and make it horizontal text if you want. So it wraps, and you may want to add in like, well, you probably want to change the font size for one thing if you're going to do that. What you could do though is do something fun like spell out a name going vertically. So that would be kind of cool. And I would definitely do the centering like it is if you're going to do something like that, but you could do something like that. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. Now definitely use the preview too, and that should help you see if your line's going to work out or not. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of fun. Let's go back to edit, and so maybe now I want to say this is going to be 2021, and let's make it a little bit bigger so that my 2021 kind of stands out. And then, yeah, I think I'll leave it there. But you know what? I think I might want another line. The better way would be to use this copy button. And then when you click paste, now there is a second line there. So I'm going to do it like that. So if you're trying to match, like on mine, how I had some ones I was trying to match previously, I just measured from the top. Like if it was 2 inches down, I lined my line up at 10 inches. Same thing with the bottom. You know, if you want something to be a certain distance from the bottom, you know, line it up there. And so definitely pay attention to kind of where things are on the ruler scale to help you get it lined up. And anyway, that'll help you come up with some beautiful spines. So I'm going to show you a few more things. This was just the very basic, but you can't hurt anything by playing around. So I would encourage you just to go out there and fiddle with vertical, horizontal, turning things around, drawing lines if you like that, or different fonts, that sort of thing. Just the only 2 things you can't change once you get started is the color of the spine and the color of the font. So those things are set. If you decide you want to change those, then you just start over with a new project. So I'm going to click save here, and then I'm going to show add to cart, and it's going to say, are you sure this is the way you want it? And you're going to say agree and add to cart. And then it's going to say, are you really, really sure that it's the way you want it and you really want it in the cart? And so then you say yes, and it will show up in your cart. And so down here is this. Now, if you get to thinking about it later and you decide, I really would like to edit that after all, you need to come to your cart and delete it out of your cart. And that puts it back into your edit queue. So once it's in your cart, you can't edit it. So you remove it from your cart in order to do that. So I'm going to remove it so I can show you where to find those items. All right, so if you've removed it from your cart and you want to go back and edit it again, you're going to go up here to your name and to my account. And then you're going to my custom products over here. And you'll see I've made quite a few spines. But here's the one that we're working on. And so you see I have the option to edit it, delete it, duplicate it. You know, like when I was doing the 1, 2, 3 volumes of the band albums, I created one and then I duplicated it and I edited the duplicate to be volume 2. And so that way I could keep it exactly the same, except I just changed the number on the volume. So this is where you would go and you can click edit. And you can look back through your history. These are all some that I've kind of had in edit mode. But you can, if you've already ordered it, you're only going to have the ability to duplicate it. Like you can't edit it from there, but say I needed another Omar's Childhood. I can't add it to my cart again, but I could duplicate it. And then, yeah, so like here's one I've ordered, so I have the ability to duplicate it. Now, there may be some that it will not allow you to duplicate, and that would be if you had used a color that is no longer available. So like this one right now tells me that I can duplicate it, but once boysenberry becomes not available, then I will not have that option to duplicate. So if you don't see it, that's probably why. And so if you want to edit this and put it back in your cart after you tweak it, you'll just hit edit. And it's going to take you right back to where we were. So I think the spines are a beautiful way to finish your album, and I hope that you have gotten a little bit out of this and are inspired to go out and do some spines for yourself. And so I'm going to say thanks for watching. And if you are interested in how to do a happy album or a smaller than 12-inch album, keep watching for a few more minutes. But if you don't have that, then you can just sign off right now. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. I'm going to show you how I take a 12-inch spine and make it fit our smaller happy album. So the first thing I'm going to do is take out the existing spine so that I can measure. Then I'm going to use the scoring blade on the handy dandy trimmer. And I need my arm out. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is measure what this one is. I'll do it this way. All right, so this one is about 10 1/8. So you see I have offset my text so that it's geared towards the bottom here. So I'm going to measure this at the 10 1/8, and then I'm going to give it a good hard score. Then I'm going to turn it over and do it the same on the other side. All right. And I'm ready to fold this down. And you know, I'll use something else to give it just a good solid smashing, let's just call it. And then I can take it and put it into my happy album. And you want to push down from the ends, not from the center. There you go. And see how I've made a really fun color to go with the 2021 album. I just think those are good colors together. Thanks for watching.